Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a f***ing con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids, being caught in public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors. Yeah. Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician. Just a stone-cold, narrative-driven politician. Nobody thinks he's a real human. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, you know that's a human being. With Newsom, you've got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person.
Gavin Newsom, if you're listening to this, you're a failure. Mayors are actually some of the most powerful people in the country. The police are responsive to the mayor. The building codes are responsive to the mayor. The homeless, mayors are very, very powerful. So he was mayor of San Francisco. Would you let your son walk the streets of San Francisco unaccompanied at 1 a.m.? No, you wouldn't. I'm sorry. Your son can't walk the streets of the city.
Imagine blending Charlie Kirk's bulldozer-level sarcasm with Joe Rogan's unapologetic truth grenades. The result? A political explosion so intense it could be spotted from space, obliterating Gavin Newsom's oversized ego. Nothing is spared, from his world-class hypocrisy to his borderline obsession with perfecting that hair gel shine. Rogan and Kirk don't just mock California's golden boy, they turn him into a convenient prop for their own agendas. The aftermath is merciless, leaving behind a trail of financial wreckage and a bruised reputation Newsom never saw coming. And let's just say, it wasn't only his eyebrows feeling the heat.
See, the governor talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down. And he did this little dance. Show it to him, Jamie.
You had some ideas around some land use concerns around speculators coming in, buying up properties. We're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward.
A big smile on his face.
You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones
I don't know, this like harmonious thing of like 22 senators all saying the same thing.
Like that, yeah.
I don't like it. Go ahead, go do more of that.
What do you do?
Please.
What do you do? Seriously, Charlie Kirk, give us some.
Let's break it down. Without a suit, a teleprompter, or a gallon of hair gel, Joe Rogan stripped away Gavin Newsom's carefully polished image in seconds. All it took was a sharp eye for political fakery, a quick mind, and a working BS radar. While Newsom paraded around California like the star of an upscale shampoo commercial, Rogan countered with raw, unfiltered reality. And when Newsom's campaign rolled out its highlight reel, complete with self-applause, higher taxes, and climate change lectures, it only got uglier. Kirk and Rogan didn't just spotlight his policy blunders, they shattered the smug, unyielding persona he had leaned on for years. They painted a portrait of a man who's mastered the art of looking busy while letting real problems simmer. This wasn't just about politics. The glossy glow of California was suddenly replaced by the smoke of a blaze Newsom had lit himself, right in the middle of his own public demolition.
I will say, if you look at Gavin Newsom's numbers, there's a Newsweek article, though. His numbers are down dramatically as far as favorability, trust, authenticity since he started this podcast. It's not going very well for him of how people view him. So for that, I will say that I think we have done a good job of exposing him for being this synthetic.
This is climate hypocrisy in its purest form, preaching environmental salvation while racking up enough air miles to orbit the planet. Newsom's private jet might as well be a crime scene for environmental offenses. Every time he spoke, you could practically feel the smugness radiating, enough to make Joe Rogan's face twitch, not from outrage, but from sheer disbelief. It was the kind of absurdity you get when someone brags about their flawless coordination right after dumping coffee down their shirt. For Rogan, who can break down quantum mechanics and swing a kettlebell with the same precision, the bigger question was simple. How did the self-styled savior of California manage to wreck nearly everything he touched? Tech giants are packing their bags. Family-run shops are either shuttering or fleeing to friendlier states. Homelessness is surging so badly it's making national headlines. In small towns, the air of despair is thicker than ever. And yet, Newsom's ego only seemed to swell, floating high above the crises he claimed to be fixing. To anyone with a shred of common sense, the contradiction was glaring. If your own backyard is turning into a cautionary tale, you don't get to claim you're leading the nation forward. Still, there they were, smiling for the cameras, as if the collapse wasn't happening in real time.
Governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate it.
But would you do something like that? Would you say no men and female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
Why is it you were able to clean it up for Xi Jinping?
Oh, that was you guys. That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. By the way, you guys weaponized that. I saw that on 25 things. It was ridiculous. Yeah, that was, you know what? I will happily revert back to your
Can I have the streets as clean as it's
weaponized,
usually
in
been?
this case, weaponized.
I
In
have
this
the-
case,
can I-
weaponized.
Charlie Kirk didn't need caffeine to get fired up about Gavin Newsom. Just a glance at California's daily disaster report was enough. From ballooning taxes to climbing crime rates, every headline read like a bad parody of leadership. Newsom governs like a blindfolded gamer fumbling through SimCity while sipping overpriced kombucha. Kirk's frustration was palpable. When he laid out the picture, he nearly sprang from his seat. Once hailed as a beacon of promise, the Golden State has morphed into a cautionary tale framed by rusting palm trees. And the kicker? Newsom still sees himself as White House material. Nothing screams fit to lead the nation like being the poster boy for higher taxes. Streets littered with human waste and rolling blackouts that plunge neighborhoods into darkness without warning. His political resume reads more like a checklist of reasons why Americans are fleeing blue states in record numbers. Kirk's criticism didn't land softly, it slammed down like a sledgehammer. This wasn't partisan theater, it was a walking, talking public safety alert. Californians aren't packing up because of bad weather. They're leaving because leadership like this turns a would-be paradise into a sinking ship. Yet somehow Newsom still pictures himself as the nation's future captain.
Gavin Newsom talks about California. He's like, I'm very big on California, very bullish on California. Hey, f***o, they're all moving. The only reason why they don't move is because it's too difficult to move. It's too expensive to leave versus when all the bullshit with all the permits and all the... It's too expensive.
Rogan couldn't help himself. California was once the dream. Its golden beaches, groundbreaking ideas, and electric culture drew people from every corner of the globe. Now, it feels like a Whole Foods-branded sequel to Mad Max. And there, in the middle of the chaos, is Gavin Newsom, literally stepping over a tent city, smiling like he's just risen from the ashes of poverty. In his mind, that's what visionary leadership looks like. Even when he tries to play the tough guy, it's unintentionally hilarious. Like watching a labradoodle try to intimidate a lion. Charming? Sure. Convincing? Not even close. His so-called emergency statements read like flavorless word salads. High on jargon, low on solutions. Honestly, his hair has more structure than his policy playbook. Yet he delivers every claim with the confidence of a man who truly believes his Tesla could charge the moon. Rogan's had neuroscientists, astronauts, and game-changing innovators sit across from him. But after catching clips of Newsom's press briefings, it's like going from a masterclass to the microwave beep of human thought.
Gavin Newsom, if you're listening to this, you're a failure. Mayors are actually some of the most powerful people in the country. The police are responsive to the mayor. The building codes are responsive to the mayor. The homeless, mayors are very, very powerful. So he was mayor of San Francisco. Would you let your son walk the streets of San Francisco unaccompanied at 1 a.m.? No, you wouldn't. I'm sorry. Your son can't walk the streets of the city that you were...
What Rogan hears from Newsom is a stream of vague platitudes, empty at their core but wrapped in shiny, elegant language to give the illusion of depth. When you strip away the sparkle, there's not much left. And in a state facing this level of chaos, that's not just frustrating, it's dangerous. It's like watching someone stroll through a bone-dry forest, flamethrower in hand, while giving a lecture on fire safety. That's how absurd Gavin Newsom's leadership looks from the outside. Charlie Kirk didn't have to work hard to make the comparison either. He likened Newsom's policies to the endless caravan of U-Haul trucks lined up at the state border. California's very own Black Friday rush, except the hot item is getting out. The bailouts are coming faster than any promise Newsom ever made. And when criticism lands, he reacts as if it's a complete surprise. His logic? I cut forest maintenance funding, the fires got worse. It must be climate change. Really? Here's the reality check. You can't fix decades of mismanagement by throwing up solar panels. But Newsom keeps serving platitudes in place of real solutions. Meanwhile, Rogan dismantled him so effortlessly it could have been billed as a live performance. Newsom explained why Californians are leaving is like watching a raccoon try to teach quantum physics, scattered, agitated, and completely distracted. It's just politics, he insists. But Rogan cuts through the noise. This isn't about politics, it's about survival. People want the basics. Reliable electricity, clean running water, and the ability to grab a Starbucks without weaving through piles of trash on the sidewalk. Until Newsom delivers that, the moving trucks will keep rolling out of the state. And then there's his favorite pastime, making up new rules he barely understands. Gas-powered cars, banned, logic and common sense? Apparently optional. He governs like someone who read a single sentence on a climate science blog and decided to spend the weekend playing dictator. When his grand schemes inevitably flop, he never owns it. Instead, he points fingers at corporate greed, Texas capitalism, or even Mercury being in retrograde on a slow news day.
As exhibited as how they're acting, in the streets and how they're acting in Congress is not moderating on these issues. In fact, I think this podcast might be ending Gavin Newsom's presidential ambitions, not preparing him for his presidential ambition. And so the final point I'll make is this, is that it wasn't just about Gavin, it was also about the tens of millions of people that were able to get their eyes open and say, like, yeah, why didn't Gavin go stronger on the trans sports issue, or why didn't he do this? And now Gavin Newsom, I can say this, you're seeing this all across the board. He is under non-stop siege, and he's handling...
Charlie Kirk nearly lost it watching Gavin Newsom glide through disaster after disaster with that trademark smugness. 1 week it's climate change, the next, equity, then a vague social justice crusade with all the depth of a kiddie pool. Meanwhile, real Californians are forced to choose between paying rent and buying groceries, while Newsom posts filtered vineyard selfies, wine glass in hand. According to him, the state's unraveling has nothing to do with his policies. That's when Joe Rogan landed the knockout punch. He even had a name for it, the Newsom effect. When your ego is so warped by reality that you start believing your failures are actually hidden victories. Power grid collapses? Not mismanagement. Climate change. Homelessness spiraling out of control? Not bad policy. Systemic inequities. All delivered with perfect hair and a Twitter feed pretending everything's fine. It's not fine, and more people see it every day. Kirk came prepared, with receipts. Not a few bullet points, but what could only be described as a Costco-sized binder of Newsom's political train wrecks. Like a medieval monk with terrible record-keeping skills, he could have unrolled a scroll detailing every tax hike, ridiculous regulation, and hollow virtue signal, each one ending in disaster. It wasn't just a list. It was a catalog of chaos.
With presidency, we got along very well. And they treated me better than anybody has ever been treated. And I said, this hair is good. Do you know they closed every factory 1 week before I got there from within 200 miles?
That's like what Gavin Newsom did when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco.
He cleaned it up.
He cleaned it up. He got rid of all
Isn't
the
that
homeless
terrible
people.
in a way? To think, he cleaned it up and then it became a pigsty.
Well, the
He
dumbest
is-
thing is he said when your friends come by, when you have visitors, you clean up your house. Like, how about just keep your fucking house clean?
Can you imagine?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say ever as a governor as to excuse to why you finally cleaned up your homeless problem.
And the day he left,
Right back to
it
it.
went right.
Instead of dusty ghosts, Kirk's binder was filled with budget cuts, broken promises, and ideas so absurd they could have been scribbled on cocktail napkins soaked in spilled whiskey. Take Newsom's brilliant initiative to give hotel rooms with room service to drug users and pitch it as a housing solution. Or his belief that banning plastic straws will somehow turn California into a utopia, even as its largest cities slide into chaos. Look at San Francisco. Once a world-class landmark, now it resembles a post-disaster obstacle course. Forget street names, just making it across town without stepping on something regrettable requires a car, an emotional support animal, and probably a seasoned Sherpa. Yet in Newsom's book, this is progress. Kirk's binder didn't just list the mess, it exposed the truth. Newsom's leadership is less about fixing problems and more about smothering them under shiny PR slogans, hoping no one notices the stench. So yes, Gavin, by all means, declare war on gas stoves, because clearly cooking appliances are what's holding California back, not rolling blackouts, rising crime, or the stampede of residents heading for the exits. Then came Joe Rogan. With ominous music practically hanging in the air, he seemed like a man reading aloud a greatest hits album of political disaster. You could almost see the existential dread hit him, the crushing realization that he lives on the same continent as this man, and still pays taxes.
Someone sits down with him, ask him an update. Hey, Governor Newsom, you said with Charlie Kirk that you think it's not fair. You have yet to do anything about it, sign an executive order, talk publicly about it, because a young man named A.B. Hernandez is about to win the long jump championship in California as a biological man. Why haven't you done something about it? Or are you just doing this podcast for clicks to try to make yourself seem more moderate? If Republican guest after Republican guest goes with that kind of attitude, be polite and firm, and hold him to the standard that he is setting on his own show, that will even collapse his book.
You could almost picture Rogan stepping outside after the show, looking at the sun and muttering, "This is what happens when you elect a mannequin with Wi-Fi." Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, wasn't just energized. His frustration was practically radiating off him. He looked ready to detonate. This wasn't a debate, it was a demolition. With each jab, Newsom's endless loop of photo-op politics was shredded like shrapnel tearing through paper. Kirk even mocked Gavin's press briefings, calling them a one-man show nobody asked for. More about feeding an applause-starved ego than running a state. The whole exchange was the perfect example of two very different commentators arriving at the same conclusion. California's leadership is a comedy and a tragedy rolled into one. The curtain's about to drop, the audience is leaving, and the real problem isn't just the performance, it's the performer. Gavin Newsom doesn't govern. He performs. He's the Broadway lead in a play about pointless bureaucracy. Cue the lights, cue the cameras. He'd happily host a ribbon cutting for a newly patched pothole, so long as the lighting was perfect and the media snacks were on point. Kirk nailed what Californians already know. Newsom runs the state like he's submitting extra credit projects for a class no one else is even taking. It's as if every plan was dreamed up at 2 in the morning, fueled by a kombucha-fueled brainstorming session.
The state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing, and then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. I'm like, you're out of your mind, dude. You've ruined the state. Personally ruined.
Let's fix homelessness with taxpayer-funded yurts. Let's cut emissions by banning breathing during rush hour. It's politics by Mad Libs. No matter how you fill in the blanks, the ending is the same. A wildly expensive failure. Businesses shutter. Roads crumble. Homelessness gets worse. And yet in Gavin's world, everything's improving. That's the real kicker. He still claims progress is everywhere, flashing that perfect camera-ready smile. But where exactly is this progress? Maybe on the set of The Truman Show, where the audience is kept in the dark, the problems are scripted, and the scenery is fake. Only here, the production costs are dumped on California taxpayers. If there were an unofficial title for Gavin Newsom right now, it would be California's Personal Disaster Accelerator. Rogan didn't even have to crack a joke, the roast practically wrote itself. Just putting a recent image of San Francisco on the screen was enough. Without Batman, the place looks like Gotham. And there's Gavin, blissfully strolling past it all like he's tending to a bonsai tree for a commercial shoot. Except it's not beauty he's nurturing, it's chaos, dressed up in a designer's suit.
But no, look, just one of the things we saw in the last couple of years that the Democrats completely ignored, and your side was basically not acknowledging was happening, was the crisis that young people were experiencing.
Right.
That, I mean, it's the first time in America's history that a 30-year-old is going to have it worse off than their parents.
Right.
It's a breakdown of the social compact.
Right.
They are the most alcohol addicted, most drug addicted, most suicidal, most depressed, most medicated generation in history.
Charlie Kirk went above and beyond expectations, half joking, half daring Gavin Newsom to run for president. Not because he thinks Gavin would win, because the memes would be gold. Picture it. Gavin, dead serious, explaining in a debate why America should follow California's example. Meanwhile, Florida's thriving, Texas is booming, and California? A knockoff Renaissance fair complete with fentanyl vendors in the food court. He runs a state where small businesses are smothered by high taxes. And even running a lemonade stand requires navigating enough red tape to earn a PhD in bureaucracy. Yet somehow he never stops talking about innovation. Rogan didn't need to yell, he just shook his head. One subtle gesture that said it all. This guy is out of his mind. Kirk, on the other hand, was already planning Gavin's farewell party. The kind where the guest of honor doesn't realize the whole room is laughing at him. Kirk nailed it when he called Gavin's leadership a reverse Midas touch. Whatever he handles, wealth, crime, bankruptcies, or $4 million dream homes you can't actually live in, doesn't turn to gold. It turns to punishment. Only Gavin Newsom could take a state overflowing with beaches, sunshine, and limitless opportunity, and make it a place people need to escape from. Rogan zeroed in on Gavin's obsession with optics. In California, nothing happens unless the hair is perfect and the lighting is flattering. It's all staged, filtered, and Instagram ready. Wildfires? Perfect time for a press tour. Crime surge? Cue a heartfelt speech on justice reform. Statewide blackout? Light a candle, hold a press conference, and deliver a TED Talk on resilience. Solving problems comes second. Getting the perfect shot comes first. And make no mistake, Newsom's already auditioning for a national campaign. Kirk's skepticism was biblical. If Gavin were any more disconnected from reality, he'd need a NASA rover just to reach voters. The rest of America might like the idea of the California experience just without the crime waves, the tent cities, and the earthquakes. For now, they're watching, waiting, and laughing.
And did you see what Gavin Newsom said to him?
No.
Pull that post up, Jamie. Gavin Newsom said that you shouldn't be posting this. We're going to make it illegal, and I'm going to sign a law. And he said, "Professors suck on these nuts."
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Elon
he did.
said that to Gavin Newsom?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I checked with renowned world authority, Professors suck on these nuts. And he said parody is legal in America.
Rogan didn't even need to raise his voice. He just let California's stats speak for themselves. sanity is vanishing faster than U-Hauls can flee the state, while crime, taxes, and failing schools all climb higher. In Gavin's world, that's apparently the perfect resume for a presidential run. Rogan skewered Newsom's habit of spinning disasters into progress, like bragging about gaining weight while on a diet. If it weren't so insulting to people living with the fallout, the mental gymnastics would almost be impressive. Then came the hair. Charlie Kirk couldn't resist. Gavin's perfectly molded, indestructible hair helmet looked like a Greco-Roman statue clutching a bottle of mousse and a love child. It became the perfect metaphor. Style without substance. Honestly, the man's hair has more volume than his policies. That's when Rogan tapped out, joking that if aliens landed and saw Gavin Newsom step forward to greet them, they'd just turn around, vaporize the planet from orbit, and leave. Because really, what intelligent species would look at California under Newsom's leadership and think, yep, this one's worth saving?
Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a con man. I mean, everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids, but it was totally unnecessary, to being caught out in public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors. Yeah. All of it.
Kirk twisted the knife, saying Gavin's only legacy would be a cautionary tale in history books, a case study in what happens when ego crashes headfirst into incompetence. Meanwhile, as yet another business shutters in downtown LA, Newsom's still on Instagram, proudly posting about his bold leadership. Even Rogan, who's seen it all from mind-bending DMT trips to elk hunts in the wilderness, admitted nothing felt as psychedelic as Gavin's view of government. While California crumbles outside the window, Newsom seems to live inside a California-shaped snow globe, shaking it for the cameras. Kirk practically begged the DNC to make him their nominee. Please, do it. After all, this is the guy who can look at a broken power grid and somehow call it a green innovation opportunity. The same man who managed to turn scooping human waste into a taxpayer-funded job. I'll just grab some popcorn and watch Gavin debate himself into political oblivion, Kirk laughed. The best part? They didn't even need to be in the same room to torch him. Armed with nothing but irony and logic, Kirk came in swinging like a political flamethrower. Rogan took a different approach, pure incredulity, grounded in strict common sense, paired with that trademark expression that silently asks, "Are you even hearing yourself right now?" It was the same look he'd give to someone explaining flat earth theory after a DMT trip. He circled back to what had already been said, Gavin's obsession with optics over solutions. In California, it's never about fixing the problem. It's about getting the perfect shot. Wildfires, blackouts, or crime waves, it doesn't matter. Light a candle, call a press conference, and frame it like a TED Talk on resilience. That's the California snow globe Newsom lives in, carefully shaking it for the cameras, while the real state collapses outside. Charlie Kirk's jab still hung in the air, his plea for the DNC to nominate Gavin, the biting joke about a man who could look at a broken power grid and somehow call it an environmental victory, the governor who once turned scooping human waste into a taxpayer-funded gig. Kirk's prediction? Newsom's only legacy will be as a textbook warning about what happens when ego meets incompetence. With the same ruthless efficiency California wishes it had in its DMV, Rogan and Kirk tore through Gavin's carefully polished national ambitions. Every Instagram post about brave leadership looked more absurd when paired with yet another business shuttering in downtown LA. In the end, Newsom's meticulously crafted tale of achievement was stripped bare. Messy, overhyped, and ultimately as disappointing as an overripe avocado at a vegan brunch. The contrast between the image and the reality wasn't just striking, it was the whole point. We'll stop there. If you enjoyed this political takedown, hit the like button, subscribe, and join us next time for another reality check that even a California snow globe can't filter.